Because there is so much ground to cover, I'm going to just jump straight in to ask you specifically about, I'm always interested in how creative people, writers, painters, artists, musicians, how they actually physically work. What is the creative space? What is the working space where you work? Is it a studio, is it your kitchen, or is it everywhere?
Yeah, no, I have my studio at home because you understand that I have children. They've grown up now, but it was very important that I maintained a certain amount of balance so that they were the most important people in the picture. So I thought I wanted to live in Australia and always love the Australian bush, and I love animals. So it made perfect sense to set my studio up in a country setting so that my children weren't overwhelmed by the sometimes unnecessary attention that the work can create, you understand. So, and it worked for them. They were never compromised.
Do you actually go into the studio and that's work?
My studio is a sanctum to me, and there's no one's allowed to talk about things to do with money, or I don't look at contracts in the studio. I'm very selective about what happens in that room because it's my little sanctuary, if you like, that I need to be able to feel well going into that room. To be an artist is to be alone, and it's sometimes, it can be very, you must allow yourself to be consumed by your loneliness sometimes in order to communicate those things that come from the soul tissue. And it's not an easy path. And I always, when I meet another person that has decided to throw themselves out there and say, well, do you know what, I'm going to pursue my art now, my heart goes out to them because it's so, there are so many moments where we feel completely inadequate and hurt for the things that we write music about, and we feel pain. And in my situation, for some reason, I've been, for some unknown reason, I tend to be always involved in tragedy in cinema, you know, and it's, you know, it's just been the way it is. And I specialise in deaths and crucifixions, assassinations, dead children, dead animals.
You know, the thing that always characterises your work is that it's unique. And I think in music, as in any of the arts, being unique is perhaps the first step to a real career. Do you agree with that? And do you think of it at all in those terms?
Yes, I do. And I was talking to one of my daughters about this, who is an artist also. She has the affliction of an artistic soul, and I see her struggle daily with her anxiety that she's not creating as much as she should, or that her work isn't at the standard that she needs it to be or she wants it to be, which is just a beautiful, it's beautiful to watch her in her desire to do something that's going to change the entire world. That you know, because that's what we basically want to do. We're not happy to just sit home and do a bit of music. You know, we're arrogant enough to believe that what we're doing is going to actually change something. And sometimes we get positive feedback that you know, we have changed something. I remember getting a letter once from a man who was at war, and he's dead now. He died during that war, and he just having the music there for him to listen to, and he was so grateful. And he said, I only joined the army because I wanted a job. I didn't think it'd ever turn out to be war, and now I'm stuck here and I'm really scared, and thank you for the work. Every project's different, every director's different. You know, God forbid that, you know, you might go and put a melody against picture and the director's going to be overwhelmed, and, you know, it's like, you know, you're dealing with very fragile personalities and very difficult situations. You're dealing with politics. You're dealing with a lot of people that they've spent 50 million or 100 million, and they're extremely scared that they're not going to get their money back. And it's like the movie's not working, and suddenly they come to you, and it's like, well, we need you to try and fix this scene in the movie. I've just had that recently with an English film that I'm doing. I won't mention the name, but the last scene in the movie wasn't working for anyone, and we were able to fix that with the music. It wasn't easy, but we were able to do it, and that only comes with experience or luck.
Luck is huge.
Luck is huge. Luck's huge.
Do you have a preference for working on albums, writing songs, or film scores? Do you have a preference, or are they nice change?
It depends really. I find that the awful thing about doing films is that you are under so much pressure for such long periods of time, and there's a lot of sleep deprivation and things to meet certain deadlines and things, and you must be aware of that you're going to have to, face that. The awful thing about it is that the pressure becomes addictive, and when you don't have that pressure in your life, you start climbing the walls and becoming a nuisance to others, and analysing everything, and constantly trying to find those things that provide you with enough food to keep feeding this thing that's been woken up, that inside of you, which is a pity really. So it's at those times that if you can have the discipline, it's good to go, well look, I'm going to set the next 2 months aside, and I'm just going to write some music for my bank, or I'm going to work with Patrick Cassidy, or I'm going to work with this other person and see what we can make together that takes us away from this other world. And that there is a healing power in that also. Yeah, the thing of the business side is, look, it's a necessary evil. You have to confront it. It's really distressing, and it would be really nice not to have to deal with it. But we've got to survive, I mean, I had a situation the other day where someone sent me an email and said, oh, you've gone and sold out, and you've sold out to Qantas and, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, I've got to put food on my table. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what are you talking about, sold out? And, it's like no one realises how hard it's getting for us to survive. We have to take every job. And that's another word of advice, if I can give you one, is say yes to everything. Because 90% of the work won't eventuate. Do you know what I mean? So just always say yes. Don't worry about it.
And don't be snobbish about commercials.
No, don't be snobbish about anything. Just take the work, because it'll lead you to something else. And it depends on you. If you go, when someone said to me, you're working in Hollywood, you're just, you've become a total whore with the work now, and all this kind of thing. But, a friend of mine, Geordie Wadance, many years ago said to me that when I was having my daughter, I said, shall I have her in Spain? And he said, Spain is very tired, Lisa, And he said, but the one thing that you must remember is that if you come to somewhere new, to a new country, that you must come with something to give that country. And a child is the greatest gift you can give a country. And when I began working in Hollywood, I thought of that, and I thought, well, as long as I go there and I don't compromise my work itself, it doesn't matter what I write for. Because if you go, that's the greater challenge, is sometimes you look at a work and you think, oh, maybe this isn't how I saw my artistic, the line going at this stage. Maybe you're doing an ad or something and it's not terribly interesting, but it's a challenge. And if you go with your heart in the right place to give a gift from you, then you have an artistic soul. Why would you not want to give something, no matter how mediocre the project might appear? It doesn't have to be mediocre if you are involved.
Excellent
you
point.
can make it wonderful.
Excellent point.
Faster. Am I allowed to sing?
Please.
Oh, God. All right, as long as you don't look at me.
Okay, nobody looks.
Okay. Sotto la palla piena, guardami qua, aspettai to ora mia rien a Don't clap.
I don't think we can go past that point. Thank you very much, Lisa. Appreciate it.